Hey guys, it's Mike Chen. Hope you're having an amazing day, and it's about to get better, especially if you're gonna make what I'm showing you how to make right now. This is gonna be another pork belly recipe. I have a love affair with pork belly. It's such a great ingredient, you know? You got the skin, you got the fat, you got the lean meat, you got more fat. It's like a fat meat sandwich. I mean, some of you may not like fatty meat much, but I'm pretty much obsessed with it. I mean, this thing, you can boil it, you can braise it, you can fry it. One of my favorite places to go in the world is the Philippines. You know that beef commercial back in the day is like, beef, it's what's for dinner. Not in the Philippines. It's most likely gonna be pork, and it's definitely gonna be good. And so is this recipe I'm showing you today. Now, this recipe is gonna be a little time consuming, but the good thing is, like, most of the time it just cooks itself. You don't have to do anything. And it doesn't require many ingredients. It will require a bunch of different cookware, namely this thing. This is called a shaguo. It's a clay pot that's used a lot in Chinese cooking. And the reason why we use a clay pot is because when you heat this up, the heat inside a clay pot is very equally distributed. Now, of course, if you don't have this, if you don't have a local market that sells this, it's okay. You can use a pot about the same size. I think like maybe a 4-quart pot or something. That'd be okay, but try to get yourself one of these. Braising will never be the same after you start using this bad boy. Also, I do want to say, if you did get one and it's your first time cooking with it, do not heat this on high heat right away. Fill it up with water, low heat, until the water heats up. Let that cook for about 30 minutes, just so a little moisture can be absorbed by this thing, so it's not gonna get hit by an immense amount of heat right away on first use. I mean, this is your baby. Be gentle with it. The other ingredients we will need is we need dark and light soy sauce, Chinese cooking wine, and particularly the Scallions brand cooking wine, very vital to this recipe. We need about 8 slices of ginger, around 4 stalks of scallion, some thread, 4 to 5 ounces of rock sugar or brown sugar, about 8 dried dates, and unfortunately, dried dates is something I know a lot about, and about 2 pounds of pork belly. You'll need the pork belly to be pretty thick, so try to get it from a butcher shop, or you can go to a Chinese supermarket or a Korean supermarket. I actually had some trouble finding this because all the pork belly I found were like really thin, but you do really need something that's got a little height to it. In the cooking process, like I said, this cooking process, it's a little cumbersome, but most of the time it's just simmering away. So you do kind of need something like the ceramic pot. You'll need a wok or just a pot that can boil some water. We can slip this pork belly in there. We're gonna do a bit of frying, so you need something for that. And then we'll need to do a bit of steaming, so you'll need something for that. Like I said, a little cumbersome, but the reward, you're gonna eat that sucker right up, okay? It's worth it, trust me. Let's get to cooking. Okay, when we're ready to start, we're gonna first blanch the entire slab of pork. We're gonna do a pot of water. Our entire slab of pork goes in to the cold water. Heat on high. We're gonna cook this for about 5 minutes. The reason why we're putting the pork into cold water is because if the pork is put into hot water, it's gonna cook on the outside right away. We don't want that. We want the inside nastiness, the impurities to ooze out of the pork. Also, it's gonna make it much easier to cut. See all the stuff that oozed out? We don't want none of that. And the cutting it is very important. We gotta cut these into cubes. So you can either cut it into 3x3 big cubes or 2x2 smaller cubes. I'm gonna do the 2x2 because I think my meat, each strip is 2 inches wide. And trust me, if you try to do this before boiling this a little bit, this is gonna be a challenge. Also, after you boil the meat, give it a little rinse all that scum off. Nobody wants any scum. And some of your pieces of pork might have little bits of hair on the skin. So if you do see a bunch of hair on the pig skin, what you can do is heat up a wok. Just heat it up, nothing in there. Throw the piece of pork on there, hair on the bottom, obviously, and you'll cinch the hair right off. I don't have that problem, so I'm skipping that step here. So I'm gonna just try to do the best I can to cut these into cubes. And just do the best you can. You don't have to be 100% precise. You don't need to break out a ruler or anything like that. There you go. After we boiled our pork, get a frying pan, drizzle of oil, turn the heat on medium-low, and we're just gonna sear our pieces of pork a little bit. Don't put the skin part on the bottom. We're just gonna sear the bottom a little. And the reason we're doing this is so that the grease from inside the meat, when it's fried, it's gonna come out. So later when you bite into this dish, it's gonna be oily, but it's not gonna be overly greasy. And you can fry a little bit on the sides as well, just not the skin. And we're gonna do this just about 30 seconds on each side. Again, heat on low. We're not trying to cook this, just trying to get the grease to come out. After that, set them aside. Wait till it cools down a little bit. The next part, Gonna get a little kinky. We're gonna tie up our pork. And the reason we're doing this is because there's so many different layers of pork belly, from the meat to the skin to the fat. And oftentimes when they're braised for a long time, they're gonna fall apart. So this is used to prevent that. All we gotta do, make a full circle on one end, tie a little knot, and then go the other way. And we don't want to make this too tight. I mean, we're about to eat this pork. We don't want it to be too uncomfortable. After all, it did sacrifice itself for us. There you go. I mean, everyone's heard of meat on a stick, but meat on a rope might be new, huh? So go ahead and tie all your pieces of pork up, and then we're ready for some braising. But before that, we gotta make our sauce. And the sauce for this dish, it's really simple. It's really just based on soy sauce and wine. So we're gonna add 3 tablespoons of dark soy sauce. You absolutely need the dark soy sauce for this, because that and the sugar is what's really gonna give it a really nice glowing red color. And speaking of the wine, we're gonna add 2 cups of Shaoxing cooking wine. Again, a very vital ingredient in this dish. Next, half a cup of light soy sauce. Cut up the scallion. Just need to cut them into sections. 3 sections will be fine. And then 8 slices of ginger. And you can keep the skin on. Now this part is really important. Usually what they do is, there's actually a bamboo separator made for braising, but I couldn't find it at any of the Chinese restaurants. What it does is that it prevents the meat from burning. Since we don't have that, we're gonna layer the bottom of this pot with scallion sections. So just make sure to cover the entire bottom. And we're gonna put the meat on top of this so it doesn't burn. Also, of course, you're gonna get that nice scallion flavor in the pork. And it's okay to double up, just don't want this thing to burn. After that, we're just gonna put in our slices of ginger. And then we are gonna add the pork in with the skin on the bottom. I feel like I'm a little porky stork delivering some deliciousness. We're gonna add in our sauce. And it should cover about 2/3 of the meat up. And next, we're gonna take our 4 to 5 ounces of rock sugar and just spread it on top of everything. And this is gonna be based on preference. If you want this dish a little sweeter, add more. If you want less, add less. Now we're gonna bring this to a boil. And as we're waiting for this to boil, just a little story about how this dish came about. It was created by a person named Su Dongpo, who was a poet, a scholar back in the Song dynasty. Some say that he had a friend over for chess and he was braising pork at the same time. But he was so concentrated on the chess match that he totally forgot that his pork was still on the stove. So hours later, he freaked out, went to check on his pork. And not only was the pork not burnt, it was delicious. If that story was true, you know what that actually was? That was divine intervention from the food gods. That's exactly what that was. Oop. Now it's bubbling. After that, turn the heat on low. We're gonna cover it up and let it cook for 90 minutes. All right, 90 minutes on the clock. See you in a bit. All right, let's see how we doing here. Oh, that smells good. And that looks oh so pretty. We got that beautiful red glow that we've been after. But I'm sorry to say, the cooking process is only half over. Now that we cooked it with the skin side down, now we gotta steam it with the bottom down. So, got my steamer. Pork belly goes in. Flip this so the belly part is now in the sauce. This is already feeling so tender. Oh, and one last thing. Remember these dry dates? We're gonna add them to the pork and let it all stew together as well. And we're actually gonna try to put some of them underneath the pieces of pork. Close the lid. We gotta steam this for another hour and a half. Oh my God, this is the longest I've ever had to wait for food. That's it. Here we go. Whew, how good does that look? Oh my God, looks so good. We don't need this little string anymore. Now the most important thing, how good does it taste? I made some rice already. Oh, so many hours in the waiting. As Rachel said to Ross on season 2 of Friends, you were worth the wait. That fat and skin, oh my God, melt in your mouth. Just what we wanted. Oily without being overly greasy. It's everything my taste bud's been craving for. I literally waited all day for that. I didn't eat all this, about 6 p.m. in the evening. I've been cooking this thing for like 4 hours. Not many pork dishes, at least texturally, can beat this thing. I mean, just look at the juicy meat falling apart. I'll do this so you guys can see better. Look at that. Melty, juicy fat. Look how easy the meat comes apart. I love this part the most, with a little skin and little lean meat on the bottom. I 100%, I'm not kidding you a little bit when I say as soon as that skin touches the heat of your tongue, it just starts evaporating. I kid you not. It's like eating porky cotton candy. Again, guys, this dish, it takes a while to make, but you will reap the reward because you will feast like kings after it's done. And just with a lot of other dishes, it is customizable. You want it saltier, add more light soy sauce. If you want it sweeter, add more sugar. If you want it less sweet, add less sugar. Also, if you cannot find rock sugar, it's okay. You can substitute it with brown sugars. What you'll need to do is add about half a cup of brown sugar with about a third a cup of water, and then just cook that until it's a little tiny bit syrupy, and just pour that on top of your pork and let it braise. Bottom line is, go home, try this out. This is amazing, and all in all, it's not a hard recipe. It's a lot of time, but you're not really doing much work. As always, guys, all the ingredients are listed for you down below. Thank you so much for watching. Until we cook again, see you later.